there's a tree right here that has my attention. There's one tree in a forest of trees, and this one has my attention. It's coming out between two rocks. For reasons that are unclear to me, it's bending off in that direction. And I could continue to take a full story inventory of this tree. But I'm only seeing a part of the tree. I'm seeing the part from the ground up. I can tell you about its leaves. I can tell you about its bark. I can tell you the positioning of some of the moss and lichen on it, any patterns that I notice, any of the eyes, all of that. And, over time I could probably give you a pretty solid study of this particular tree. That's in the category of what I know, and if I share it, what you all know. But there's a whole other thing that's happening under the ground. So I'm bringing this tree and this forest to illustrate an aspect of intuitive storytelling. Previous videos about intuitive storytelling have begun. I've used this kind of chakral mapping. The 7 chakras really align nicely with the 7 steps of intuitive storytelling, so I've been using that. We're at the point now we're in the green heart chakra, and this is the pivot point. This is restorative storytelling, which we've done a thorough series of videos about. They're about the body and voice of the storyteller, the individual, the tree. And the first few steps in intuitive storytelling is about the tree as well. We start, in red, in this sense of instability and a lack of safety, which is in my opinion, and a lot of researchers' opinion, really motivate us as a species to change. When we don't feel safe, we make changes. So the purpose a lot of times in telling stories from a evolutionary standpoint is to maintain the species, to take care of ourselves and those around us. So we go from red, the root cause of our storytelling, to try to mediate a sense of instability and insecurity. And then we go into orange, which is to do an inventory of our resources, what kind of energy we have, what kind of energy we want. There's a bunch of videos on that, and you can get individual books on each one of these, mini books on each one of these steps. Into the yellow, which, is sort of the center, the middle of us, which is our identity, the stories that make up our identity. And then now we're in the heart. And from here up, in the map of intuitive storytelling overlaid with the map of the 7 chakras, we move into connecting to all that is. And that's the relationship between the tree and the forest. So the forest from the ground up looks like a bunch of individual trees. All together, a community of trees, but a community of individuals. And there's also ferns, and there's also moss, and there's lichen and other creatures here. But under the ground, it is a beautiful entanglement. And if you're been, keeping up with string theory and all the realm that is considered new physics and quantum mechanics, etc. It's not as new now, but you know that there's this notion of the entanglement, the field, the unifying force, the singularity behind everything. We're all connected. And in a forest, it's actually organic. We can dig up the ground and see that all the roots from this tree and the roots from that tree and the roots from that tree are connected together, not only with the whole fungal mycelium network, but a community of bugs and worms and organisms that are everything is working together underground. It is above ground too, but we get distracted by the individuality, by the identity of each individual organism, each tree. So intuitive storytelling is a process where we start where we all tend to remain, which is me, myself, and I, just like this. I'm focused on my own ambitions and problems and story, etc. And then I, share that with particular individuals. Maybe I create a community, and then through a variety of different practices, many of them tend to be spiritual, we recognize this sense of oneness. And intuitive storytelling is designed to be able to dialogue with that. But there's a process. So we need to start with the tree, pivot point at the green, where we are at once a tree and the forest. We're both. There's a long bardic tradition, sometimes identified or stemming from this idea of a dunce, which comes from John Duns Scotus, he was the laughing stock of the late Middle Ages, early Renaissance, because he said that, we are ourselves, but we're also everything. And that didn't swing with the great, awakening that was taking place of science. Can't do both. You've got to be either there's just us. And there's this, and there's this, and there's this, and we can itemize it, and we can label it, and we can have a full inventory of what's on the planet through science. And John Duns Scotus said, yes, and we're all the same thing. God is in everything. So intuitive storytelling operates under that idea, which is, yes, we're the storyteller. So there is an individual, but we are also a part of the great all that is, and we can dialogue through storytelling, which is the language of all that is, by way of people, and learn from it, access eternal wisdom, be able to, give our input into what's going on, and just, be citizens of the universe. So there's a book about this, the Green Pivot Point. You can get that, but you can also get the Restorative Storytelling mini books, and then the Intuitive Storytelling mini books that are being developed right now. So just follow the links, and I'm glad you took the time to listen to this. Till next time.